Xilian's first reaction was to reach for Feng Xin and strike. Good thing he had good habits. Before he struck, he swept a glance and forced himself to break mid-action. General Pei? That man flipped over and leapt to his feet. It was Pei Ming. He dusted off his shoulders, looking amazingly at ease, and glanced at them. Looks like Your Highness and my Lord Ghost King are enjoying yourselves here. Not too bad, Xilian said. But General Pei, are you all right? I seem to have heard a cracking sound. Oh, it's nothing, Pei Ming said. Thanks for Your Highness's concern. That cracking sound wasn't my bones, but the bones of this one. He raised an object, and it was the femur of that unlucky man, the bone already bent and broken. He added, Thank goodness for this good brother's help that this Pei Ming was able to dig out an escape route in this mountain spirit's body. Even though it's the bone of a man, it's still a fairly solid, good man. Just as he finished, from not far away, a second figure dropped from the sky, falling down and landing heavily. The group of them walked over to see, and this time it was Pei Su. In the curve of his arms was Banyue being shielded, and Banyue's arms were holding those two black clay pots that contained Kermo and Rong Wang. The two of them were ashen-faced and disheveled, but they didn't seem to be anything serious, and they quickly crawled up. Pei Su spat out a few mouthfuls of dust. Jin, Earl, Your Highness. Pei Ming glanced up. Looks like this mountain spirit doesn't think we're tasty enough, and spat us out. Hua Cheng and Xilian exchanged a look. Xilian said quietly, Not necessarily. Perhaps someone told it to spit you out. Pei Ming took a few steps and noticed the abnormal ground shaking, and he furrowed his brows. What's with this mountain? Why is it shaking so hard? Because it's currently carrying us and running toward the kiln, Xilian replied. Pei Ming walked to that hole Yin Yu dug and looked outside. So fast, that'll help save us some footwork. However, until now, there was still another person missing. Xilian asked, Where's Lingwen? Hua Cheng seemed to have used his right eye to take a look, and replied, The silver butterfly resting on his back was swallowed by the mountain spirit. He's gone. Which meant Lingwen and the Brigade Immortal could now move as they will. That was no joke. Xilian hurriedly exclaimed, Let's go find him. Thus the group of them started running about the body of the mountain spirit. Hua Cheng released another few hundred wraith butterflies to conduct a search, and in the end, it led them to another hole. This hole was forcibly blown out, its edges jagged, and beyond it was the scenery of landscapes rapidly flying by. Whooshing wild winds poured straight into the mountain body, making howling cries like those of demons. After Lingwen was spat out by the mountain spirit, he probably blew this hole himself and ran away. Xilian looked down from the edges of the hole and frowned. What should we do now? The destructive power of that Brigade Immortal is too strong. We can't just leave it be. Don't worry, Hua Cheng said. He's heading for the kiln anyway, so we're really just taking different paths to go to the same destination. Once everyone gathered round, Xilian briefly gave an account of what he had overheard earlier, leaving out some finer details. After he was done, the group of them sat down to space out. After all, there weren't any monsters to fight right now, and they didn't need to make the journey themselves, so it was rather empty and boring. Since Yin Yu said he really didn't know how to communicate with Chuan Yijin, and just seeing his face gave him a headache, Xilian felt it wouldn't be wise to release him, so he was temporarily kept in the form of the Dharma doll. Pei Ming was bored, so he kept slapping at the doll to play. Xilian saw how that Dharma doll was wobbling heavily and felt sorry for it. He chided, "General Pei, please stop playing." Pei Ming complied. However, when Xie grew drowsy and dozed off leaning against the mountain wall, he started slapping at it again. There was no one to mind him, and Yin Yu, who was guarding the hole, mentally calculating how much distance was traveled, looked over from the distance. Many a time he looked like he wanted to say something, but in the end, nothing was said. Yet, unexpectedly, in extreme joy, tragedies were born. Pei Ming was slapping around when suddenly, with a loud bite, Pei Su keeled over. Pei Ming instantly forgot all about playing and gripped Pei Su. "Little Pei, what's wrong?" Yin Yu quietly walked over, picked up the Dharma doll, and set it down next to Xilian. Hua Cheng was annoyed. "What's with all the noise? He won't die. Can't you see His Highness is asleep?" Xilian was dozing for a while, and sure enough, he was woken by the noise. The moment he woke, he found he was leaning against Hua Cheng's shoulder. Hua Cheng's voice sounded right next to his ear. "Gogo is awake." Xilian rubbed at his eyes, and next to him, Chuan Yijin was swaying back and forth. "What's going on?" "It's nothing," Hua Cheng replied. "If you're sleepy, you can take another nap. We'll be there soon enough." Xilian saw across from them that Pei Ming was clutching Pei Su's collar, violently shaking him. He was slightly shocked, now more than awake. Thinking something was the matter, he went up to see. He said, "Oh, don't worry, General Pei. General Pei Jr. is just tired and hungry and couldn't hang on for the moment." Pei Su was mortal right now, after all, having struggled for so long without food and water, and without Xilian's extensive experience in starvation and beatings, where one meal could sustain him for 3 days, and taking 10 beatings meant nothing. Pei Su couldn't hang on anymore, and had finally collapsed. Pei Ming remarked, "The mortal body is so inconvenient. Does anyone have anything to eat?" No one responded. Banyue took out a pot. "I'm sorry, but I only have this." It was that pot filled with toppled phoenixes. Pei Ming yelled, "Why are you still holding on to that thing? Throw it out." They were noisy and rowdy, and Hua Cheng turned to Xilian. "See, I told you it was nothing. Why not take another nap?" That mountain spirit ran for a good whole day, and Xilian could see the skies were turning dark outside. "How long have we been running now?" Yin Yu had been counting by that hole and answered, "We've run close to 800 miles. This was definitely much faster than when they walked. Xilian also came to the edge of the hole. He was only going to take a casual look at first, but when his eyes swept over their surroundings, he suddenly saw something. Instantly, the hair on his neck stood up. "What's that down there?" Looking down from this mountain spirit in the black of night, below, on the ground, was a giant human face. That face bore crescent eyes, its lips curled upward, and was smiling creepily. Xilian took a step back in spite of himself. Hua Cheng was behind him and held him. Xilian steadied his mind and took a closer look. Turns out that that face was merely an image formed by collective hills and ravines, an optical illusion. However, this illusion looked very real, and with only a glance, it was a shocking sight. Xilian wondered, "What's that gully that resembles the eyelids and the lips?" Hua Cheng replied, "That's the Wuyang River, the main river of Wuyang. Its source is in the high mountains, and the melted snow formed this river. Of course, it's now dried out completely. But to have reached here, it means we're very close to the kiln now." Xilian nodded and asked again, "Then the nose?" Hua Cheng answered, It's a lively city next to the shore of the Wuyang River. Want to go down and see? Shilin inclined his head. Is there anything worth seeing down there? There's another divine temple of Wuyang in that city, Huacheng said. If there was a temple, then there was a possibility of a mural. Shilin instantly said, let's go. He couldn't wait to learn more about this crown prince of Wuyang. Pei Ming also piped up. Let's go. We have to find something edible for little Pei. How do we go down? Huacheng waved his hand, and a few silver butterflies appeared fluttering next to everyone, shimmering their light. They rested on everyone's shoulders, backs, heads, and sleeves. Others who saw these little silver butterflies might grumble and wonder whether they could possibly bring them anywhere. But Shilin didn't say a word before releasing Roya and tying everyone together. This way, they wouldn't lose each other in midair. Yin Yu made the hole larger so that there was enough space for at least 5 to 6 people to go through at the same time. Preparations complete, Shilin and company all came to the edge of the hole. Everyone, get ready. Wait, Pei Ming called out. Shilin turned to look. General Pei, is something the matter? There's something that I've been meaning to ask, Pei Ming said. What's that on your hands? Following his gaze, Shilin looked down and saw his own hand. He raised it, and only then did he realize that the red string knotted on both his and Huacheng's fingers was still connected. Shilin softly cleared his throat. That this is a spiritual device for contact of sorts. Oh, Pei Ming said. Wouldn't it be inconvenient? It's a string after all. What if you trip on it or it gets entangled somewhere? Accidents will happen. His reminder made a lot of sense, but for some mysterious reason, Shilin wasn't too willing to have the string cut off. Seeing his hesitant expression, like he was struggling internally, Huacheng took a look and smiled. It certainly is a little inconvenient like this. Then, Shilin saw the red string disappear between their fingers. Now, it's much more practical, Huacheng said. Shilin stared at the empty air where that red string had disappeared, a little dumbfounded. It only connected them for a short while before it was gone. Although it wasn't anything major, no, it should be said that it was something extremely minuscule. Still, he was a little forlorn. Afraid someone would notice, Shilin squeezed a smile. Let's go. Ready? Jump! That mountain spirit was still charging forward by itself and didn't notice at all that the little people the size of grasshoppers had leapt off of its body. Enveloped by a circle of wraith butterflies, the group of them landed lightly like feathers, without a hair harm. The place of their landing was the bridge of the nose of that giant smiling face. After straightening up, Shilin was perplexed. He scanned around. Sanlang, is there a Wuyang temple and a city here? There is, Huacheng said. But there's nothing here, Shilin remarked. It was true. He had thought that when they landed on the ground, he would see the same small town sites like that of the first divine temple, that he could see streets, shops, residences, wells, temples, and so on. However, what was before them was a field of flat land, empty and barren, without a trace that a city had ever existed. Pei Ming was carrying Pei Su, and he stepped a leg on a boulder. Where's this lively city? Under your feet, Huacheng said. What? The group crowded over. Under Pei Ming's foot was that boulder. Shilin asked. Is there some sort of a secret mechanism? Come stand here, Huacheng said. He pulled out the scimitar Erming, aimed the tip downward, and struck into the ground right next to the boulder. The tip of that scimitar pierced into the ground. At first, there was a cracking sound, and small, cobweb-like fractures split the earth. Then those fractures spread rapidly. The cracks bigger and bigger, the fissures deeper and deeper. Finally, that entire section of the ground caved in with a boom, revealing a chilling, dark hole. Huacheng jumped in first. Shilin hadn't realized he would take the first leap, and he rushed to the edge of the hole. Sanlang! A moment later, Huacheng's voice came from below. Everything's fine down here. You can come down now. So it turns out he went down first to scout. Shilin sighed a breath of relief and instantly jumped in too. The others then followed one after the other. Huacheng reached for Shilin's hand and pulled him up. It's so dark in here, Shilin noted. Just as he said this, several silver butterflies lit up in the darkness, dancing languidly, and a number of ghost fires also appeared, instantly illuminating the deeper parts of this hole. What appeared before them was a long street. 1,000 years ago, this would have been a bustling street, packed full of shops and large houses. The boulder Pei Ming stepped on earlier was the rooftop of one of those buildings. Shilin looked up. I see. So the city was buried? Buried by what? Earthquake? Landslide? Or volcanic ash, Huacheng said. Shilin whipped his head around to look at him. Huacheng added, volcanic ash of about 7 meters in thickness buried the entire city underground. What you all see right now is a part of what the demons and monsters that had come to Mount Tonglu for previous trials had dug out. There are many more sections that are still buried deep within the ashes. Which meant the apocalypse in the Crown Prince of Wuyong's dream had come true. Pei Ming put Pei Su down on the roadside and said, never mind all of that for now. Is there water? If there's nothing to eat, a couple of sips of water is good too. If we're lucky, you'll find underground water deep down, Huacheng said. Thus, Pei Ming and Banyue left to go find water. Shilin was still deep in thought when Huacheng walked over. Gogo, look at your hand. Shilin followed his direction without much thought, and only after he looked did he discover that while the red string was gone, the bright red knot on his third finger was still there. Huacheng had explained before that when the red string between them broke, the knot would disappear. So what was going on? Seeing him stunned, Huacheng smiled. It's just a small camouflage spell, that's all. The red string is hidden. The distance is now unrestricted, and you won't have to worry about tripping over it. But it didn't actually break. As long as the affinity knot is still there, then the person on the other end of the red string is safe. Once we're close to the kiln, dangers will increase. We don't know what's ahead of us just yet, so I thought, this red string still can't be untied. What do you think? Learning that the red string was still there, Shirin's lips curved upward in spite of himself. But the moment he realized it, he immediately straightened his expression and replied very seriously. Oh yes, if that's the case, then we can know whether the other is safe at a moment's notice. It's a very practical spell. Huacheng also flashed a smile, but it soon disappeared. But, Your Highness, there's something I must say. Hearing him sound so solemn, Shilin asked, what is it? I know you can't die, and you're not afraid to die. But no matter how tough you are, don't think yourself incapable of getting hurt, Huacheng said. Shilin was taken aback. Huacheng continued. Not dying doesn't mean not getting hurt. And it definitely doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. When you see something strange and dangerous, don't just touch it. Find me. Let me take care of it. Shilin suddenly recalled earlier when he touched those skulls covered with corpse poison with his hands. Huacheng's expression instantly turned dark. He wondered inwardly. Was Huacheng perhaps angry because of this, then? If that was truly the case, Then he really didn't know what to say. It was a moment before he complied. All right, I won't do that anymore. Hearing his sincere promise, Huacheng seemed to be satisfied. He nodded and was just about to turn and continue onward when Xilian called out, Sanlang, wait. Huacheng looked back. Xilian chewed on his words for a good moment before finally, arduously squeezing out softly. You too. If there's something dangerous, you don't touch. I won't touch either, all right? Hearing this, a side of Huacheng's lips lifted. He took a step closer and was about to speak when they suddenly heard Pei Ming's voice from not too far away. What is this? Looks like people, Fan Yue said. Indeed, Pei Ming remarked, but why would people turn into something like this? Huacheng and Xilian exchanged a look and walked toward where their voices were coming from. Turn into what? Xilian asked.